Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to the MLT podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence. Me and my friends, Markel and Tevin, will be breaking down our thoughts on the current sports news and entertainment. All right, first topic of the day, the state of the Washington Commanders. As you may know, as of 4/13/2023, roughly, was it 2 o'clock p.m.? Eastern time. Dan Snyder finally released, or AKA sold, the team to Josh Harris and other minority owners. Did you not know Josh Harris is the owner of the 76ers and the New Jersey Devils? So, Markel, being local to the Washington Commander area, Washington, D.C. area, how do you think this changes basically everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge win for the fans, for the Commander fans.
Yeah, nobody wanted him.
Yeah, over 20 years of this awful owner. I mean, it's no other way to put it, right?
No.
So I mean, it's a win for the fans. We just gotta see the pen has to be to the paper, right? I think Ian Rappaport was the first to really break the news. I think the news really broke around 12, but as soon as Rappaport around 2 to 3 in the afternoon really put his signature on it, that in principle Snyder and the Harris group that's trying to buy the team kind of had a handshake agreement. I mean, it was just all I've heard from my friends that are huge Commander fans is it's a huge W, something they've been dreaming of, and they, honestly, a lot of people thought this never was going to happen. So I'm curious to hear what you think. I'm pretty sure you can be along the same lines.
Well, I always thought the guy was an idiot. I mean, I don't remember if it this is factual, but I'm pretty confident he bought out the team from all the other minority owners he had, but because you can't fully own the team, he then gave the other ownership that he bought to his family members. And then in light of all these allegations coming out about him, he's just well, I'm not going to sell the team, and I'll keep this team in hell. But then this year, going into the season, it was he wasn't going to be able to afford the salary cap, so he wasn't going to be able to pay the players or pay enough people enough money to make the salary cap. I mean, my thoughts are change the name. I think the old thing was "Hail to the Redskins." It rolled, it felt good. Now it's "Hail to the Commanders." I mean, it's okay. I don't think it rolls the same way. I think it's forced. And if you're going to change the name, maybe you should have changed the little slogan as well.
Yeah.
I know that we want to stay away from the whole indigenous groups and Native American names, but maybe find a way to somehow tie it back to old colonial times based on that's what we're trying to do. I don't know what you want to call it. I think Red Wolves is a better name. There were several names that they had that were much better, but mine that I thought stood out was Red Wolves.
Okay.
It still has a little bit of Native American heritage to it. But it's completely, PC related nowadays. So I think it would have hit the mark that it needed to hit and still keep that kind of original bought in culture. And it was also more of a fan favorite. In terms of a stadium, maybe I don't know how you're going to put the team in Washington, D.C. I don't think you can physically put a stadium in Washington, D.C. The thing's already so compacted with people anyways. Is it going to stay in Maryland? Or is it going to move overseas, or not overseas, over the water? Sorry, the Potomac.
Over state lines.
Over state lines to good old Northern Virginia. If it does move to Northern Virginia, I mean, you're going to have to be putting it out towards probably Loudoun, probably. Out like that.
Yeah, I think they had 3 basically like pieces of land they were like eyeing. One was in Sterling, like kind of near the metro.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was kind of similar to like how the stadium is now, where there's like a metro stop, which you have to walk like 30 minutes to get to the stadium. I think that's what they were.
Yeah, let's not talk about that walk.
Yeah, no, that's if you're from the DMV area and you go to the games, you know what we're talking about. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that was okay. So that's one piece of land, and the other two are like in Prince William, like right off 95. I'm pretty sure one was like in Potomac Mills in that part of like Prince William Woodbridge,
Mm-hmm.
and then another one was it's called Potomac something, but it's like further down. It's like near Dumfries. It's like right
Uh,
off. It's like
oh, that's
Potomac
Potomac
something.
Mills.
No, it was like a piece of like just huge like undeveloped land.
Oh, I mean, uh, well, they put the training facility out in Ashburn,
Yeah.
and I guess you can call it a success. I don't think you can. The training facility looks like crap. It's been voted one of the crappiest training facilities.
Yeah.
It hasn't been. Well, I remember watching the Pat McAfee show, and they were showing the last year glimpses of like training camp, guys going in. And there's literally like no seating at the Washington training facility. So they had guys in lawn chairs just sitting out, but they really had no fans there. And all these other teams had like a plethora of fans just goo goo gaga over all their players. Like even the Lions had more people there at their training
Well,
facility.
don't they training camps in Richmond, right? And then they have their little facilities actually in Ashburn, but the training camp is in Richmond, right? Don't they have a deal with Richmond?
They did. They did
Oh
at one point. I think the whole thing's in Ashburn or something now. They
man.
didn't stay in Richmond very long. It was short lived. I remember because I grew up in the Richmond area, and it was short lived down there. Just like that, the baseball team. Like they have a minor league baseball team down there. Yeah. Now they got another team down there that's probably leaving because they won't upgrade the stadium. Yeah, Richmond's a mess. So yeah, I don't think I think something with Richmond, they just couldn't keep them happy. The Commanders, or back then, but they couldn't keep the Commanders happy.
AKA not giving him enough money.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
So they decided to move up here to Ashburn, and also keeps everything closer.
Yep.
But I don't particularly care for that idea because like a lot of teams, like they do their well, a lot of the successful teams nowadays, like they do their training camps like further away from their home base.
Yeah.
Like me me and Analia, we went through West Virginia one time, going to see my family members in Missouri. So we're going through West Virginia, and we stopped in this town, and it said it was it was the town that housed the training facility for the New Orleans Saints. And
What?
it's a small town in West Virginia, but that's where the New Orleans Saints, at some point in time in training camp, go to practice,
Hmm.
and it's for altitude or something. But I don't see how the Appalachian Mountains are very high to give you that real altitude feeling, but it's better than nothing down in New Orleans.
I get it.
So, I mean, Josh Harris, he's the owner of the 76ers. The 76ers for the last, what was it, 6, 7 years, have been telling us to trust the process, and the process is just now starting to formulate.
Yep.
So, we're going to get 7 years of trust the process over here as well in the DMV area. I mean, as you can tell by our jerseys, one of the biggest um, fans of the Commanders, but I still root for them. Uh,
Yeah, you have to.
as a Panthers fan, though, whenever I went to the games, I thought I'm pretty confident there was more Panthers fans in the stadium than there were Commander fans. We went to that preseason game with the Bengals because that's the only time we've seen them so far. More Bengals fans in the stands than the Commanders.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's most games, right? Unless it's probably like an NFC game, NFC East game, then it's probably 50-50. I feel like fans probably show out for those ones, but if it's like a out of conference, out of division team, yeah, it's probably more away fans than Commanders.
It's just because that's where the whole stadium topic comes up to play because like
Yeah.
stadium just isn't. It's not gonna say it's in a bad area. It's just the locale it's like off the beaten path. There's nothing around it. The metro's forever away.
It's just in a bad spot, and it looks like it's just like poorly built. Like it's already falling apart. It's hasn't
It
I
was
don't
really
I think it's
quick.
barely been like 20 years, and it's like already falling apart. And like you already want to build another one, and you want to
Hmm.
use taxpayer money or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to talk about that, but like, all right, well, you know, I feel like, I mean, they had one shot at it. It's either, in my opinion, DC just demolish RFK, build it there, or find a spot in Northern Virginia that wants a stadium.
Yep. So the next topic of the Commanders is then uh, personnel. How much do you think that changes? Like Panthers fan, Ron Rivera is still there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it lightly. I think Ron Rivera is a good coach. I think Ron Rivera is one of those coaches who needs a good offensive coordinator because he can handle the defense. He just he really needs a good offensive coordinator, which Carolina had some seasons. They didn't have other seasons. And for the most part, this whole time he's been there, the Commanders haven't really had a great OC.
Yeah.
But that's also on him to get him a good OC. So, or part of the GM, but I'm pretty sure they'd work together on that. You think he's just done there, or you think they salvage him? Because he did go through this hard time of the whole Dan Schneider allegations, still keeping the team together and still winning.
Yeah, I mean, Ron hasn't been bad, but Ron hasn't been good, And like you were like talking about earlier, Snyder's been strapped for cash. Like part of his whole, you know, multitude of lawsuits, allegations, whatever you want to call it, is him. I think it was an ESPN and might have been the Washington Post, but it was like this article that came out talking about how he allegedly and potentially could have taken out like I want to say $500 million loan, like without at the time his minority owners like permission, and use that to like help finance stuff and help to buy them out once they kind of
Yep.
um once they figured out that he did it. He used to he used that money allegedly to buy them out. So the man's been strapped for cash for seems like a while. So um if you have an owner that's cheap, you're not going to get the players that the head coach needs to win. So for what Ron had, he did a good job, but now that he has new ownership, new money coming in, um, we'll see how long they keep him. I mean, obviously he's going to be there this year, but past this year, uh, to me, I don't know. Um, how do you feel
You,
about that?
do you remember the era of the Commanders back in the day when they were in limbo of a quarterback and needing a quarterback? And they were always like on that cuspice of being like just good enough.
The
But they
Jason
didn't.
Campbell days.
Yeah, Jason Campbell, the Donovan McNabb, what is it? Possibility. Like he was it 2 years he was there, and it was
Yeah.
mediocre at best. Like
Yep.
I never used to think Campbell was horrible, but Campbell was never good by any means. But Campbell
Campbell
also
was
never had anything.
solid.
He never had
Exactly.
anything. I
Santana
mean,
Moss, and that was like legit it.
yep. I mean, what do you want? What do you want him to do? I mean, the amount of running backs that came out of there, though, that they would never re-sign. That was the next step. Oh yeah, we have one good season, but then let's not re-sign him.
Yep. Just
Yeah.
always been cheap. I
Mhm.
mean, Snyder's just been running it like not how like you're supposed to run a franchise. Like he's like this man's like trying to get every nickel, penny, dime, and just like live his life instead of like what a real owner should, be about is about winning.
Kind
And
of.
I don't think
It's
he's
kind
doing
of
that.
how like a lot of the European soccer guys are towards the bottom. It's like, I get a lot of good players in here, but then it's like, okay, I get a lot of good players in here, but then other teams buy my players off me. Well, in the NFL, no one buys your players off you. You just lose your players. So in reality, you're just giving them a chance that new life, but you're never giving yourself anything. So I never understood the philosophy. That was the main issue. He, it was like he ran the team in the wrong sport. He was running the wrong sport, but the man also was cheap and had no money. I mean, this man was cheaper than the Oakland A's. All right.
Yeah, like if you wanted to make money, bro, you're in the wrong sports business. Like you said, go own a team in England, go own a team in Europe, soccer team. Go make deals, facilitate signings to make yourself like more wealthy. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
don't try to pull that stuff over in the NFL. Like these, the fans that were passionate before, and then ever since you've bought the team and owned it, the fans have been dropping left and right, and the fans that are still there are like just disgusted by what you've done. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the team gets any better until they find themselves their previous RG3. It's debatable how good RG3 was, but man took him to the playoffs, and the man didn't have to do every single thing in the world for the team. He probably would have still been here, still playing. But man literally had to put his whole entire team on his back, and his legs came out from underneath him while doing it. So going into the season, they got what? Sam Howell as the starting quarterback. That's the starting quarterback, right?
yeah. Sam. Well, I think Ron's not really. I don't know. He's like back and forth. Like one week he's like, yeah, he's gonna be QB1. The next he's like, this is gonna be competition. Like I don't know.
He doesn't have anything.
I
He
mean,
was going
they brought in Jacoby Brissett, right?
okay. Jacoby's okay, but Jacoby's entire career has been okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't we you the Commander fans don't want to go through. Let's face it, another Jason Campbell era of okay. They
Yeah.
want you got to get something on the table. I mean, the possibility they trade up in the draft, I doubt it, but
Yeah,
they got to do something.
where they're at, I don't think you can afford to trade up. It'll be too much, and you kind of need to build in other areas too. So I'm not giving up my draft capital to get it like a second fiddle quarterbacks.
I don't know. Well, think about it. What if somehow, some way, Will Levis is still sitting there at like 8, 9, 10? You don't try to go for it, or no? He's not worth it. Wait a couple years for the next batch of QBs to come out and be mediocre. Let Sam Howell have a chance, like because Heineke walked. So I mean that was the only spark on offense they had. I
Yeah.
mean this man almost beat Tom Brady in the playoffs, so that's a feat in itself.
Yeah, I honestly I would yeah, if somehow some way Levis is there at 10, okay, I might trade up, but I'm not trading up to 5 or 6 or 7. That's too much. You have to give up too much to move up that high. So no, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that.
All right. Well, it's good to know where we stand on the Commanders franchise moving forward. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the Wizards and Mavs. Some playoffs, multiple divisional playoffs. Maybe some other rapid fire. We'll come back to you in a second. All right. Wizards, Mavs. All right. Off-season grades for these teams. Season grades for these teams. Let's dive in. Since we're in the DMV area, obviously we decided to go with the Wizards first. We'll probably be doing 2 teams an episode, probably going forward for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so let's start with the Wizards and Mavs. Mavs, just because, well, come on, man, we're gonna hop on that train. It's too good not to hop on. All
Too
right, so
good.
oh man, it's too good. So Wizards, Mavs, Wizards season grade, everything they did off season wise. Is this biasy saying that it's a B minus? C? Is that
I
biasy? That's
I don't think so because neither one of us are fans. So I don't like we don't have any stake in it. So I think we're pretty unbiased in whatever we say.
yeah, but I don't know. Well, I don't. I don't know what an NBA fan I am. Okay, I don't have loyalty to anyone. Okay, it's whoever I bet on that my loyalty lies that day.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, so think about it like this. I mean, of all the NBA games that you've gone to, they've mostly been Wiz. So I guess maybe you're like a half fan. I don't know, but you're still pretty unbiased though. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I was only a Kimball Walker fan, so I'm kind of lost in life right now. So I'm just floating through it. So for the Wizards, my thoughts on what they need, and based on the roster,
Wait, what was the grade? Did you decide C B?
I was gonna go B minus. I'll just stick with a B minus.
Okay,
I feel
that's
like I feel like the
acceptable.
B minus is fair. They didn't do anything completely wrong. They just didn't do anything like completely right. What they need and what they've needed for since I've been in the Washington D.C. area is a point guard. I mean, they had a point guard for a season when they had Westbrook, but I think that ties into something else. I'll bring up later. But for me, what the Wizards need to do, or what they need, anyways, is a point guard. So Beal can be the straight up awesome shooting guard that he is. Porzingis can get the passes that he needs to score in the paint. Um, that way, Kuzma can be the spot jumper that he has, that he wants. I mean, I'll give Kuzi an A+. This man's obviously trying to prove he wants to chase the bag. He wants the bag. He's kind of proving that he kind of deserves a bag. No, it's a full bag. I don't know. But in my opinion, I think the team needs an Iron Man. I think you know what I mean when I say an Iron Man. I think they just need a guy who's going to constantly play in most games, but he's not going to be hurt. He's not going to constantly be out of the lineup. I think they just need a guy who's just constantly in the lineup to be a glue. I think the one thing that since we've lived in the area, that we've lacked seeing is a glue. I mean,
Yeah.
Beal is great, Porzingis is great, but one of them's almost always hurt. And looking at the stat, they've only played the three of them, Kuzma, Beal, and Porzingis, have only played 740 minutes together. That's not
Not
enough.
enough. Not enough.
I just think they need some kind of glue piece that's never hurt. So when they it's and when I kind of what I mean by it is a glue piece that's a point guard, an Iron Man point guard. It was kind of like Russell Westbrook when he took him to the playoffs. They weren't great, but like he was never hurt, so he constantly got the team going in the right gear because he was always there. So he was the main facilitator. He was the main, I don't want to say diva, but he was the main honcho besides Beal. So in my opinion, that's what the Wizards need to do. Whether they do that through the draft, um, I don't know. I mean, I can't even see. I mean, you get spurts of Advia showing out that he's good, that he can make it in this league, but in terms of like the big picture, we haven't fully seen that yet. Um, I was really down for the Spencer Dinwiddie era, and that was cut short. So, because Spencer Dinwiddie is the only point guard this team's had besides Westbrook in like the last since since John Wall. They haven't filled the hole that John Wall left.
Nah, I mean, bits and pieces. There was Russ, obviously, for a year. Ish Smith has been back and forth between the Wiz and whatever team he gets traded to. Um, yeah, no like permanent replacement for Wall.
I mean, you need it though, because that's just my opinion. The Wizards have no point guard, and that's probably the polar opposite to the Mavs that we can talk about. So give me your Wizards grade and what you think is needed, and then we can tie that back into the Mavs maybe needing a point guard. I doubt it because I feel like it's pretty sure that they're going to extend uh, Irving, so they don't need a point
Yeah.
guard. So your thoughts on the
Um,
Wizards?
yeah, so starting with the grade, excuse me. Yeah, the Wiz far, for most of the season, were a disappointment in my eyes. Underperformed really. I think the team came into the season with high expectations, and through injuries and just overall not as a combined unit not performing as well as not only like the NBA fans thought, but just like maybe like inside of their organization thought that they would perform. So I'm gonna have to give them a C. The injuries play a big part in that, obviously, but far and large, just been a disappointment. And as to looking forward to the off season, they have they have a first round pick. Right now, it's looking to be seven or eight. But with the lottery, they could get the number one pick and get Wemby. But their chances are at 6.8%. This is coming from the NBA offseason guide by Bobby Marks. So I mean, the chances of them getting Wemby is slim. So I'm not expecting that. I'm sticking more to that seventh, eighth pick. It's like just the past couple of years, the Wiz have drafted not kind of like mediocre, like not bad, but not like they haven't cashed in, right? Like Denny's like an average guy, but very good rebounder. Johnny Davis this year kind of just been slow to pick up the NBA game. Um, they got rid of Rui after a couple years. They didn't really invest that heavily into him. He's playing well with the Lakers right now. Um, so I mean, as far as drafting, the organization doesn't do a very good job at that. So I'm like, if you're expecting them to get better through draft, it's not gonna, most likely it's not gonna happen, right? So looking to free agents, the Wiz have potentially Kuzma, Porzingis, Kendrick Nunn, who they got from the Lakers in a trade for Rui, Taj Gibson, and Jay Huff, who's restricted. Um, I mean, it's tough for the Wizards, man. I mean, obviously you want to keep the mid three, the mid three together: Kuzma, Beal, and Porzingis. And for the right numbers, I feel like that's what they should do, right? Like, I think go ahead and extend Porzingis for the 4 years. I'm not sold on a max for Porzingis. The 4 years, I think it's like 178. I'm not sold on a max for him because of just his history, right? He can't stay healthy. Porzingis is kind of a diva, but he's kind of chilled out in Washington. I feel like Washington's like kind of like the perfect market where it's like, okay, DC's not a small market team, but it's not New York, it's not Dallas, it's not LA, so he doesn't have. I mean, there's Rose Bar that got John Wall, but I don't think Porzingis is going to Rose Bar.
I mean, the Wizards have Mia Khalifa.
Yeah, does she still do that?
Yeah, she's still
Oh
she's
my!
still a big fan. Well, okay. So according to the 2023 mock draft on NBA's website,
Yeah.
the Wizards are projected to get Anthony Black, point guard / shooting guard out of Arkansas.
Yeah, the kid that just declared.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, if you watch him in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, he's been pretty good. So
Yeah,
I mean, well, not the last years, but the last year he was pretty good. Arkansas's had a run of being really good in the playoffs.
yeah, and you're right. Like that's what they like outside of re-signing Kuz and Porzingis for the right like money. Uh, Upgrading at point guard, it's like the next biggest thing. Whether that's through the draft, like if you can land that kid, great. Um, is he a day one starter? I don't know. We have to see once he gets into the summer league.
Yeah,
But
he is.
I
You
mean,
might as well do it. I mean,
yeah.
you know you're getting with Kendrick Nunn. Who else is the other point guard on the team? Is it
Well,
Monte?
they ran like the right and Nunn, and they had someone else that was also like running point, but I mean, it just wasn't working. Like they need like okay, they don't need John Wall again, but they need like someone like a Tice Jones who's like a reliable starter, even though like Tice comes off the bench for Memphis. Like if he were to go to Wizards, that'd be like a perfect like example of like a starting caliber point guard, you know.
Hmm. Perfect. Yeah.
So I mean, once they get that, I feel like they would be, I mean, playoff team, but like in reality, probably fighting for that seventh, eighth spot next year if they can, you know, get some of these needs met this offseason because the team is not going to change overnight. Like, don't expect if you're a Wizards fan, like one off season, they do, some of the things we're talking about, and they're gonna, they got a big three and they're gonna compete for the East. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like, this team is probably at least like 2 years away, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, probably. I think the main problem the Wizards are always going to have is defense. I mean, if you're going to be a team that's bad at defense, you have to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
And they've been one of those teams that, like, yeah, we can score a lot of points, but we're just going to allow way too many points. And pretty much besides Gafford, there's no one plays defense, and Gafford's only a shot blocker. So
I mean, Denny's defensive. I mean, Denny can't really score. I mean, he just
he
scored his career high, like what, 25 points like a couple weeks ago,
yeah, but
and he was like, and there was like barely anyone playing, so he had to shoot the ball.
yeah,
Like
but
Denny,
he's a hustle guy. That's what they need. But I can see what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So moving from the Wizards that are in desperate need of a point guard, we have the Mavs. I'll let you start with the Mavs this time. We don't need a point guard,
good
probably.
old Mavs. Yeah, they. I mean, unless you consider like Kyrie your point guard or Luka your point guard. I mean, either one is fulfilling that role. So, starting with the grade, just based off of where they came from last season, right? Western Conference Finals knocked off the previous team that represented the West last year in the Phoenix Suns, beat them in seven, embarrassed them on the home floor in Game 7.
Embarrassed him. Gave
Um,
gave Booker the face.
to come from that to not making the playoffs this year after you make a blockbuster trade for Kyrie Irving,
Hmm.
like, come on now. Like, I mean, it's unacceptable. So, I mean, C minus for me. I mean, it's just
That's what I had.
absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't see any way around it. I mean, I would say F, but I don't want to be too harsh. I feel like, you know, Luca is an MVP caliber player, but I think for this season, it should have taught him that, you know, not only do you like not have to carry like all of the team's like responsibilities on your back, but like you gotta start sacrificing in other areas. Like clearly, like Jason Kidd needs you to play defense, and like you've refused to play defense for this man for the past like 2 3 years.
Hmm.
So at what point are you gonna take your coach's like advice? Like Jason Kidd isn't a pushover, bro. Like Jason Kidd is a damn good player. He's a top 75 all time player.
Hmm.
Like I think the guy knows what he's talking about. What do you think?
Oh, of course he knows what he's talking about. My question is, at the trade deadline, I get it, it's Kyrie, but he comes with a lot of off the season problems, which we don't need to talk about. But like, they got rid of the bench depth, they got rid of the defensive part of the team,
Yeah,
and the main problem with Luca was okay, he didn't play defense, but they can minimize that with the previous year of having Brunson. Brunson would play defense when he needed to play defense.
for sure.
Um, Dorian Finney-Smith would play defense.
Yeah, at
Um, Spencer Dinwiddie can't play great defense, but at least he gets up in your face and hustles around.
least he
So,
tries, right? Yeah,
I mean, he's trying. So now let's just instead let's just toss all those guys away and let's bring in one single guy who, as well as Luka, doesn't play defense. So in our 1 and 2 spot, we're just gonna get lit up and torched, and we're gonna have our big men get pounded over and over and over again by drives and otherwise wide open threes. And then instead of playing like, I don't know, a quick guy in Christian Wood that we paid a lot of money to get, we play Maxi Kleba like you told me the other day. Like, doesn't make sense. Um, in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with Powell. I think Powell's okay, but I think Powell's okay if you start Wood next to him. I think there's a problem with starting Powell and Kleba because Powell will be that guy in the box down there for you to do what you need to do. Like, he'll do the dirty stuff that no one else wants to do.
Let's
That's
not
fine,
let's not
but
sugarcoat. Powell is. I mean, I'm not. It's. I mean,
he's
I'm just
better
gonna
than
say it.
he's better than other teams' bigs. Okay,
He's a bum.
he's better than other teams' bigs.
Bum.
So in reality, my thoughts of the Mavs are they debatably need two more stars, and I say that with the idea being you don't know what you get with Kyrie, and you've already seen that like he'll ditch a team that has all the good stars on it. He had
Yeah.
Harden and Durant, and he still ditched the team. So arguably, you need two more stars. If you get rid of Irving, then you still need two stars. If you keep Irving, you probably still need two stars. You don't even need an all star. You just need I need a guy to play all star caliber defense. Really. Um,
Okay.
I mean, crap, man. Maybe you're gonna have to call up the Nets again and be like, "Hey, I knew we got Irving from you. Is there a possibility we can get Bridges as well? I know they ain't gonna take it because he's too damn good. But come on, they need someone that just plays defense. I mean, not to put it slightly, but I think the one main problem with that trade they did for Irving was losing Dorian Finney-Smith. That was straight up the defense that they
Huge,
needed.
huge loss right there. You
Um,
know.
I mean, I think well, Bertans is sitting on your roster for a waste of space. Man doesn't start. Man comes
Bum.
off the bench, doesn't really do a whole lot, and they're paying him so much money. I mean, so much money. Um,
This man got the bag, and now he can't shoot a lick. He couldn't shoot me in point blank range. Come on now,
mm-hmm. So they're gonna lose what? Kyrie, Christian Wood, Frank. Oh man,
Frank Ntilikina.
yeah, there you go. You
Ntilikina.
got it for
Yeah.
me. Markeith Morris, Justin Holiday, Theo Pinson, Dwight Powell. Okay, we can let him walk, like you said.
Bum.
McKinley Wright. Okay, they're losing like the entire team. According to ESPN Plus, they're gonna have 8 players going into this next season. So
they have that, and they have one pick.
mhm.
Number it's looking like the number 10 pick.
So let's be realistic here. They're gonna need to get rid of. They're gonna need to get. I think they just need to get some money on the books. Okay, I think the Mavs are a big enough market that they can bring guys in. They need to be able to pay guys though, and it's hard to say that people don't want to play with Luca. I can't see why people wouldn't want to play with Luca, especially if you're like one of those guys who loves, maybe offense isn't my game, but I can play some great defense, and Luca can carry me a little bit, like a
Yeah.
KCP. Okay, KCP loves to be on teams where he doesn't have to be the offensive guy. He can just get in your face and shoot a couple of threes every once in a while.
Yeah.
Uh, him and Bullock on the same team, I don't see how that works. So I think they need a big man that plays defense, and they need a shooting guard that plays defense. I think they need those two spots.
Okay.
That's my opinion. If they don't though, and I think that just means they just waste Doncic's career a little longer, and I think he either wastes away there for a little bit longer or he moves because he's not an idiot. But we'll see what happens with that team. Uh,
Yeah.
that's I think that
Uh,
team goes as far as Luca can throw them.
yeah. At this point, I mean, it's Luca's team. Obviously, you give up all that, draft capital and assets to get Kyrie. You just can't let him walk. So I expect the Mavs to resign, but I guess it just depends, right? If I'm Mark Cuban, I'm not giving Kyrie 5 years to 200 plus, whatever it is. I don't know the number, but I'm not giving this man 5 years. Would I be okay with a 3+1? Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect number. Like, okay, give this man 3 years. After his third season, he can decide if he wants to go somewhere else, or we can do another like kind of supermax extension. And he won't be old, but he'll be like in like that Steph Curry age range where he's still going to get another max. So it's like, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not totally wasting money. I'm not leaving like money on the table, basically.
Yeah.
So I think you re-sign Kyrie for less than 5 years. You're not getting Christian Wood because you treated him like crap, barely played him. You wasted a first round pick on him. I mean, that's your fault, Jason Kidd and Cuban. Like that was a bad trade. Powell, let him walk. He's not good. Who else we got? Frank. If Frank wants, Frank wants a little minimum, I throw him a little minimum bag. Morris, he came over with Kyrie. I honestly, I watched a couple Mavs games. He doesn't really play, so I mean,
I
it's
think
not for,
he might go to a team that lets him shoot threes every once in a while.
yeah, he doesn't really like. He didn't play for the Nets really, and he didn't. Honestly, I didn't really see him play for the Mavs, so he's probably gone too. So, I mean, you potentially have the number 10th pick. If it falls outside, it says it goes to New York. So if it's outside the lottery, it goes there. So that means they don't have any picks if it's higher than like 14, I think, or 12. So
Oh wait, okay. So, debatably, what do you do to get Bertans off the roster, off the books?
bro, you can't. I mean,
You have to
like,
get on. You have to get on. You have to get on your knees and beg. Like, what are we
oh
talking here?
man, you have to give up more first rounders, and I mean, the trade that they did was smart because they didn't give up all their firsts, but they gave up like I think it was two, right? So they technically
Mm-hmm.
still have two that they can trade. So I'm not giving up another first to get off of Bertans. Now, if I can package Bertans and Tim Hardaway Jr. and get both of those like kind of bad contracts out, then I would consider. But I don't know how many teams are gonna want both. You probably would need like a third team to like help facilitate and be like, all right, team A takes Tim, team B takes, Bertans in a first rounder or like 2 seconds or something because
Mm-hmm.
both of those contracts are bad. Tim Hardaway is playable, unlike Bertans, but the team can get better with like these two bad contracts those two bad contracts. So,
Yeah, because if they re-sign Irving, they don't have any money.
oh no,
They don't have any money, so it's just going to be a bunch of veteran minimums and other
yeah,
minimums. So, yeah, going into the season, those are the thoughts for those teams from us. What they really do, that all depends on them. We'll be
yeah,
sitting here in our chairs grading them a year again from now. So, moving forward, we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs. Kind of do a little tiny deep dive, but we got a few teams, a few series in mind that we think are going to go a little longer. Talk a little bit more like those, but we're going to give you the rundown of what we think is the runtime for each series.
yeah. Series by series, we're gonna go east and west, series by series, and talk about our predictions coming
Yeah,
right up.
we got hot takes. All right, NBA playoffs. East, West, doing them all. We're going to start in the East. East Coast boys start in the East.
Reserve.
Whew. All right, let me get my rundown. I'll do it real quick. I think the East is pretty much set in stone, in my opinion. You got a little bit more debates going on than I do. I got Bucks in 5. I think they slip up one, or uh, either the Heat or the Bulls figure out a way to win one at home, just so they don't get swept.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
still gonna go with the Celtics in 4. I still think they sweep the Hawks. I will side that the fact that they might go 5 as well, just because it's really hard to sweep a team. But if there is a team to get swept, I think it might be the Hawks. I know I did give a lot of hate to the Hawks last episode when I said that the Heat were gonna wipe the floor with them, and then they were gonna get
And then,
knocked out by the Raptors, and now
yeah,
the Raptors are out. So
and then what happened?
hey, man, I got the Lou Dort right. 76ers in 5, and then I got Cavs in 6. That's my 4 teams. That's my 4-game rundown. I do believe that it's going to be a tough series for the Cavs, but I don't think it's going to be that tough as we all think.
Yeah.
Cavs are going to take the first 2 at home. I think the Knicks will take another one at home, but it's going to be a 3-1, leaving the Knicks. I think the Knicks try to fight for their life in Cleveland, and that'll be the factor for me if it comes a Game 5 game or Game 5 series or a Game 6 series. Either way, if it gets back to New York, I think the Cavs will just go ahead and take them out at that point.
Okay. Cool. Let me run through the East, starting with 1 versus 8. So we're recording on Thursday. So like you said, it could be Bulls or Heat that plays Milwaukee in the first round. Either way, I'm gonna agree with you. I think Bucks in 5. I think they're gonna have one slip up and lose a game. Whether it's at home or on the road, I don't really know. But the Bulls and Miami are good enough to get one game. For 2 versus 7, we have Celtics versus Hawks. I'm gonna go season 5. I think the same thing. I don't think the Celtics are gonna sweep the Hawks. I feel the Hawks they've improved since last year, and Miami gentlemen swept them last year in 5. So I think they can get a game at Atlanta with Ice Strait going off, Murray going off. Just a team just hitting threes.
Since when does Murray go off?
Occasionally, bro. I mean, he's definitely not the Spurs Murray, but I mean, you see it in spurts. It's not every game. It's like every
yeah,
3-4 games.
Yeah, I only make that joke because multiple times during the season I had Murray 20-point scorer, and 3 times, I kid you not, 3 times this man scored 19.
Yeah.
So he's consistent on hitting 19 when I bet on him at 20 plus. So anyone listening, I'll let you guys all know when I pick Murray to score 20 plus. Go ahead and take that under 20.
Go ahead and do that and make some money. So yeah, I think the Hawks can get a game off the C's. 3 versus 6, we got the Philadelphia 76ers going up against the Brooklyn Nets. Without KD, Kyrie, they're the new and improved. No, not really. They're definitely new. It's Mikal, Spencer, Dinwiddie, Nicky Claxton, them boys.
Debatably, they could go. That could be a 4-game series. Debatably,
uh,
I don't think it's gonna be 4, but debatably, it could be 4.
yeah, I mean, the top 3 teams in the East are just very, very good. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a sweep, but I think just the way the 3 teams have played this season, at times each of the 3 have just like had stinkers. So I'm not going to predict a sweep in any of those series. So I'm gonna go Sixers in 5. And last but not least, the 4 versus the 5th seed. We have the Cavs and we have the Knicks. I kept going back and forth, but I think I'm going to stick with Cavs in 7. I think depending on how Julius Randle looks will depend if this goes 7. Because if he's just not playing well, yeah, Cavs can win in 6 easily. But if Randle's playing like pre-All-Star Randle, Brunson's playing like Brunson's been playing this whole season. Quickly's been playing very, very well as of late. Has a case for 6-man. Yeah, Tibbs has them playing really, really well. So I mean, the Knicks are really formidable. Cavs, I mean, Donovan's been really good all season. Garland's been pretty good too. Mobley's up there for Defensive Player of the Year. Allen's been in and out the lineup, so I don't know if he's going to play, but if he does, that's a big plus for them.
It's like the Twin Towers with them if he plays against the Knicks.
Yeah, Cavs have consistently been one of the best defensive teams all year, so it's just hard for me to bet against them. Um, I mean, the Knicks have really improved this year. My hat goes off to them, but I think the Cavs got too much firepower and too much defensive toughness and too much defensive grit for the Knicks to win a playoff series this year. So,
but they're also, what was that? At one point, but I know it was before the All-Star break. They were the best home team in the NBA.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Cavs are surprisingly good at home, and this is their first 50-plus win season since LeBron left. So this team is legit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the only better home teams is the Warriors. Sorry, yeah, the Warriors are like one of the only other teams that are better than them at home.
I mean, yes, that sounds about right. So they're legit. Are they the same tier as Sixers, Bucks, and Celtics? No, but I mean they're like a player away. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
You want to move on to the West?
Yeah. Well, going to the West. I'll let you start this one because I think I have more of a hot take. I think based on your reaction earlier, I think I have a hotter take than you.
No, you definitely do, if I remember correctly. So I'll go through the same order. Let's do 1 versus 8. So we have the Denver Nuggets versus either the Thunder or the Timberwolves. The winner of that game that takes place on tomorrow. Nuggets in 5. The Nuggets have been just the best team in the West. Neither of those teams give them much of a threat. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a sweep as well, especially if they get the Thunder. Then I'll go on record. If they get the Thunder, they're sweeping the Thunder. If they get the Wolves, they will win in 5.
That's where there's a sweep. Ooh,
yeah.
Hot take.
Yeah, I think if there's a sweep, I'm picking Denver over Thunder in 4. Next we got the second seed Grizz versus the Los Angeles Lakers and GOAT James.
There you go. I was going to say what you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the Lakers, like at worst, Lakers in 7, but I want to say Lakers in 6. The season series, the Lakers have won 2 out of the 3 games. The one game that they lost, LeBron was hurt. They played the first game that they won. They played pre All Star break, so they had Russ and Pat Bev and all those guys before they got traded. So, I mean, that was a pretty impressive win. I watched that game. So I know, the Memphis has all the firepower. They have Bane, they have Ja, they have Triple J, who's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Dylan Brooks can play really good defense, but he can run his mouth even better.
Hey, no.
They have Tyce Jones off the bench. He's a really good point guard. Could start for most teams. I mean, the Lakers have the 2 best players at any time on the floor. The D'Lo, who's been, he's on and off, but for the most part, he's reliable 3-point shooter. Reeves says.
So you're arguably saying that he was trying to sell versus his old team last game.
Yeah, he just had a bad game on Monday. I don't know what, or was it Tuesday? Yeah, it was just a bad game. He just shot terrible. So, I mean, I think the Lakers have slightly more depth. I mean, they just, if someone's bad, D-Ham takes him out. And Tuesday happened, D'Lo was bad. So Schroeder fits right in and scores 20 off the bench, including the potential game winner before AD messed it all up. So, yeah, I got Lakers in 6, but wouldn't be shocked if it goes 7. Next matchup, we got 3 versus 6. So we got the Kings, surprisingly good Kings, versus the Golden State Warriors, the defending champs. This might be a hot take, but I got Warriors in 7. I don't think I think the Warriors just like their struggles on the road is going to continue into the playoffs, and I think they're only going to be able to win one road game. It's going to be the one game that wins them the series.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't I don't see them getting through this series as easily as most people do. So Warriors in 7, and then the last matchup, Suns and Clippers 4 and 5. Uh, this prediction is mostly on my analysis that at some point Paul George is going to return. So I'm thinking Suns in 7 if Paul George comes back, and the Clips need to have won like at least 2 games by like game 6. Like they can't be down 3-1, or they can't be down like 3-0 and come back. Like it needs to be 2 games to 2, or like 3 games to 2. PG comes back, and I think he gives them enough of a push to make it really competitive, and it goes to 7. Um. So yeah, that's my picks.
That's your picks.
Let's hear your potentially hot takes.
That's your picks.
That's my picks.
That's what you're gonna go with.
I'm locked in, not backing out.
All right. You said the Thunder thing was a hot take. I have it down here: Nuggets 4, Nuggets 5. I have that written down because they played the Thunder, Nuggets in 4. If they played the Timberwolves, Nuggets in 5.
Okay.
So I perfectly agree with you on that. Now, how do I want to say this? I'm gonna go the opposite. I got Grizzlies in 7. I think Grizzlies in 7. We people debate, and it'll be the hot topic on everything. Every discussion board. Is LeBron's career done? Is this where he calls it quits? And obviously, it's going to be a no. Goat James ain't done, but they're going to need to talk about the Lakers, so they're going to need a reason to talk about the Lakers. So they're going to talk about it just to talk about it because I just want to talk about the news. But I mean, I can see Lakers in 7, so I'm gonna go ahead and say Grizzlies in 7 just to be the opposite of you. But I could totally see Lakers in 7. I do think that's like a guaranteed game 7 though. Vice versa. Either way, Kings in 7, Warriors in 7. I can see either way. My heart of hearts is telling me to lean Warriors in 7.
You gotta pick one.
Oh, it's Warriors in 7. I'm gonna go with Warriors in 7.
Okay.
I won't even say that because it's either gonna be Kings in 6 or Warriors in 7. Either the Kings take out the Warriors. It's gonna be Kings win the first 2, Warriors win the next 2. It's gonna be 2-2. Kings win the 5th one. If the Kings can beat the Warriors at home at Golden State, if they can win in the Oracle.
No, it's Chase. It's the Chase Center.
Oh, Chase Center. If they can win in the Chase Center, it'll be Kings in 6. That's the only way it happens. Kings in 6 or Warriors in 7. We're just gonna go Warriors in 7, just because it's the freaking Warriors, man. They're just so good, and they always play playoff.
Defending champs too. Yeah,
they always just play playoff. Oh, I mean, I feel like they're gonna get smashed, and the second round they get smashed somehow. I just don't think they're. I just don't think they're the Warriors of old. I think it's all starting to catch up to them, but I changed it. I had Suns in 4.
No, you gotta stick with it. I thought you were so sold on it.
I got written down Suns in 5. Then I was getting a little ballsy, and I said Suns in 4. I'm gonna go back to. I'm gonna say Suns in 5.
Okay.
But don't get me wrong. I still believe Suns in 4. I mean, they're going into the playoffs basically undefeated since KD came back.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of those things. Paul George is trying to play it off as if he's ready to come back. I don't think he's ready to come back, truly. And I think they're going to go to the first game, and he's going to be on a time crunch. They're going to lose it. Then they're going to try to play him more in the second game, and they will lose it. So they're going to be down 2-0. And then they're going to go for it in the third game. And that's the third game that either decides sweep or in 5. It's going to be that game 3. If the Clippers win, then the Suns are going to come back stronger, and they're going to make it a 3-1 series, go back home and end it. So it would be Suns in 5. If the Suns can win that game 3, it's a lock. And you heard it here first, Suns in 4. Yeah, it's all about game
Okay.
3. That's what it all comes down to, game 3, baby.
Yeah. Game 3 is pivotal.
But that being said, it's the Kings or the Warriors will be playing the Suns. The Kings will be playing
The winner of 3 and 6 plays 2 versus 7. So whoever went
Oh,
so
yeah. I got it wrong.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
But
so if we're thinking down the line here. Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the second round matchups could be interesting. I don't want to give away my picks yet for the second round, but just know that the second round matchups, the semifinals are looking pretty spicy if they turn out the way we're thinking.
I kind of feel bad for the Nuggets, man. I mean,
I don't.
they have such a good team, but then you basically have a semi God squad with the Suns just sitting there at 4 seed, and there's no reason that team should be a 4 seed. No, there's no reason that should be a 4 seed at all. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer,
Well,
but
yeah, I mean the Suns. You remember they started off pretty bad, and
dog water.
they had their they had their fair share of injuries too. So the West is just wide open. Like it's the top. I mean, not top, but like arguably the Nuggets, the Kings, the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Suns can make it out the West. Clippers if PG gets back, but I mean all those teams can make it out the West. Oh, Grizzlies too. Like the top 6-7 teams can make it out the West. Like there's no definitive powerhouse anymore. So that's what makes it really spicy.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I can see it. It's not like the East. The East really just feels cut and dry, which is always when you get those upsets. So obviously, what we just said and everything, okay, with a grain of salt, because obviously we're going to be wrong. Because every time everything seems too easy and too true, that's when it's always the most fun and it never happens the way you think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
So
you're right on that.
I'll take my hot take and I'll write it to the day I die. Suns sweep, Suns in 5.
Sun sweeps, Suns in 5. I like it. All right. Well, up next, just to close out the show, we will go over our rapid fire for the show. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. Now we are gonna start our rapid fire for the end of the episode. So, to start, we're gonna talk about OBJ to the Ravens, the surprise signing that happened earlier this week. I think it was Saturday or Sunday of the past weekend.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, so we got OBJ to the Ravens, Odell Beckham Jr. to the Ravens for a 1 year, $15 million guaranteed. I think he has $3 million in incentives. How do we feel about that? And what do you think that means about Lamar's chances of staying?
I think it was a distraction piece. Like I've heard some people talk on the shows. I think it was I wouldn't say a whim and a prayer to get Lamar to come back, because I think Lamar has already stated that he would like to play with OBJ.
Yeah,
but I think also paying OBJ the $15 million guaranteed, and then the possibility of making 18, so because he wanted to make 15 to 20. So basically, what they did was, okay, we'll meet you in the middle as they're possible, but then we'll get you your guarantee on the low end. So we'll guarantee you that 15 that you requested, but we'll meet you in the middle on the 18. And when I say I think it's like a distraction piece, I think it's because, well, if you're going to guarantee OBJ 15 million, Lamar's got to be looking at that like, okay, man's been kind of hurt. Reason you want to guarantee me money is because sometimes I get hurt. Okay, well, the man's coming off an ACL tear.
His second one.
Yeah, and Lamar hasn't really had any, let's be for real, any catastrophic major injury.
No.
It's just been minor ones here and there. And then, sorry he didn't want to come back because y'all didn't want to pay him. I mean, he shouldn't have to come back if y'all don't want to pay him anything. So I think the OBJ trade was a distraction just to try to get Lamar happy, but then to make him happy to also pay him less. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, does OBJ, like, does he deserve 15 million? Absolutely. I feel like if the players can get the money, like, go get the money. Is it like, it's definitely like surprising coming from the Ravens, who don't like, historically the Ravens don't pay offensive guys. So the fact that they paid OBJ like 15 million, and like you said, they met him in the middle with like potential money, like, okay, we'll meet you like 15's like the bare minimum that you'll take. Okay, here you go. But we'll throw in like 3 million in incentives to kind of meet your demands about the higher end. It's really surprising. And then I think today, his press conference was today or yesterday, but he said like, yeah, like I signed the deal without guarantee that Lamar is going to be my starting quarterback. So even though like him and Lamar might have like had like conversations like outside of, you know, outside and just be like, all right, like I want to play with you, with Lamar, like, are you actually going to be there? And Lamar not being like really like committed to that idea. I don't know. It kind of furthers how I feel about the situation. Like, I think it's basically 50-50 that Lamar stays. Like, I don't think the Ravens signing him, like let's be honest, like Odell's not a number one receiver anymore. Like, at best, he's a 2. But he would be the best receiver on the Ravens. So he's going to be treated as such number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews doesn't line up always outside the numbers.
No, Mark Andrews is normally inside because he's such a big guy. He can block and come off the edge. So, I think it was questionable because, I mean, I think one of the reasons OBJ, I mean, obviously he's became a Raven is I'm pretty sure the Ravens were one of the only teams that was going to give him $15 million guaranteed. I think that's another way to look at it. Like, obviously no one else was trying to give him that much money. I mean, the Jets picked up Alan Lazard, who's younger and less injury riddled, but doesn't catch the ball as much, and they paid Alan Lazard $11 million.
Yeah.
So we have to view that as well. OBJ naturally thinks and maybe naturally should get a little bit more than Alan Lazard because he's been a more longer proven vet than Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
Way better hands than Alan Lazard. And Alan Lazard is also one of those guys who is a strict number 2. I've never seen Alan Lazard be that top dominant guy on the Packers, even though that's what they kind of wanted him to be. And now the Jets, they're trying to get Rodgers in there, and they also picked up another number 2 in McCole Hardman. So now we're going to go back to the Ravens. So they picked up OBJ to basically be the wide receiver number 2. You got Mark Andrews, who, let's be facing, outside of Travis Kelce, maybe George Kittle, are the only tight ends that can actually run out there and play like wide receivers. Mark Andrews doesn't play like a wide receiver. Mans plays like a tight end. Yeah. So let's not get it twisted. OBJ's playing out there as if he's wide receiver number 1 with no real number 2 even on the roster. So they're going to go into the season with just straight number 2 wide receivers. And any team that's really tried it in the past has never really worked out. So and now you're gonna have OBJ come out here and say he signed with the thought of maybe Lamar not playing there. So you're gonna have Tyrell Huntley throw you the ball, and we saw that passer reading and what it looked like. Uh, that either tells you OBJ's trying to front for Lamar or the Ravens, either side, or the Ravens were the only team that were going to give him $15 million guaranteed.
Yeah, it's probably the Ravens were the only team willing to offer that amount of money. So, I mean, basically, we're looking at the Ravens with OBJ, a number two, Bateman. Still, the word is still out on him.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially, I mean, most likely they're going to draft a rookie wideout in the first round. So, whatever guy they choose is going to come in as whatever slot they want to throw him in. So, it'll be interesting to see how next season goes with or without Lamar. So yeah, let's move on to the NHL playoffs. How are we feeling about those matchups? Do you want to break it down for us?
So seeing how between the two of us, I just thought there's something we should talk about the playoffs a little bit. I'll quickly just bust through all the series and who I think will probably be the winner of each series. So the first series is going to be the Bruins and the Panthers, the Florida Panthers. That's how it's projected to be right now. That's probably how it's going to end up. Um, I know the curse is that the best team in NHL normally loses first round, but I think the Bruins are way too good, and the Panthers. You don't really know what's going to happen in terms of goalkeeping. And wise word once said to me about hockey: if you don't know enough, you go with whoever has the better goalkeeper. And that's how most of the time. That's how you bet on hockey. That's how most of the time the playoffs go. Whatever team has the goalkeeper is the team that you're going to have to ride with. So obviously, I'm just going to go Bruins in that regard. Uh, Next matchup was the Lightning and the Maple Leafs.
Okay.
We're just going to stick to, I guess, standards here. The Maple Leafs have been one of the best teams ever at making the playoffs and then choking it in the playoffs. And they haven't proven in the last couple of seasons that they can not make that a running gag, running trend. So, with that being said, and the Lightning being just a few years removed from winning the title, winning the cup, I'm just going to go with the Lightning. They have solid goalkeeping. Not to say the Toronto doesn't either, but the Maple Leafs, you just don't know what you get when it comes to playoff time.
Okay.
Then you got the Hurricanes. They're going to be matching up with the Islanders, New York Islanders. I don't want to say that's a already done shot, closed, sealed. But in my opinion, you're going to have the Hurricanes and Bruins and the Eastern Conference Final for the NHL. They just have the best goalkeeping, most solid lineup, and they're also just two of the least injured teams. So we're just going to go with the least injured team. So we're just going to go with the Hurricanes out of Carolina. And then to round it all off, we're just going to go with the New York Rangers. I can see the Devils winning. I can see the Rangers winning. Both are very good teams, but you're going to go with the fact that the Rangers, they made big moves when it came to NHL deadline. They went out and got some very solid pieces for the fact that they knew that they wanted to make this playoff push because they knew that they didn't, they'd be sitting there in the wild card. And it worked out for them. They were literally sitting there ready to go into the playoffs as a wild card. Instead, they're sitting at the bottom of the Metropolitan Division, but they're not in the wild card. They have a very winnable matchup against the Devils because the Devils' owner is Josh Harris, and he's just going to tell us to trust the process and everything he does.
Not
so,
trust the process.
So then we'll move over to the Western Conference and quickly run through them. One of the teams that I've loved to bet on so far this season in NHL is the Kraken. So biasly, I want to pick the Kraken to beat the Dallas Stars in the first round, but I know I shouldn't because the Kraken do not have proven goalkeeping. It's finicky game to game, and in a series where teams figure out your goalkeeper by game 2 or 3, you need that solid guy to constantly be there. And there may not be a better goalkeeper than the Dallas Stars goalkeeper, and I think his name is Ottenberg. So no, I'm just going to have to go with the Dallas Stars just straight up for goalkeeping. Then
Okay.
we're going to head over there to the Western Conference. We're going to have the Central Division with the Wild going against the Avalanche. Avalanche are last year's Stanley Cup winner, but the problem being with the Avalanche, they're not the same team that they were last year. Uh, they've gotten rid of pieces. Pieces have moved away.
Mm.
The Wild were pretty much at one point in the season, we didn't know what the heck they were. But the Wild are one of those teams that can win on the road. And if you don't know something between two teams and everything looks way too even, why not just go with the team that can win on the road? However, at, we don't know this for fact because the Avalanche still have one more game in hand. So it might not be the Avalanche versus the Wild. It might be the Stars versus the Wild. But I'm going to go with what the playoff series looks like at the current moment. And then to finish it all off, we got the Golden Knights taking on the Jets, the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
Uh, we got to remember the Vegas Knights went to the NHL Stanley Cup on the first year.
Their first year, that was crazy. I remember that.
And then they took a step down because, obviously you weren't supposed to be that amazing your first year. But they've come back. They got good goalkeeping. They got good players all around. I think the one problem with the Golden Knights is their center. That's where they get beat is in transitions. So if they can get that shirt up, which maybe you can in the first series and get something figured out, because you got one of the best goalies on the ice almost every other night. So should be something they can figure out. Shouldn't have too much of a problem getting past the Winnipeg Jets in the first round. And then I'll leave us off with our final matchup, which is the Oilers versus the Kings. And then you're gonna have to look at it the same way you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. It seems like a running trend here with these Canadian NHL teams. They just seem to choke it away when they finally get to the playoffs. So until a team can prove that they can't choke something away in the playoffs or they can't win a playoff series, you're just gonna have to go with the opposite team. And the Kings have a very good, solid goalkeeper or goaltender. Let's say the correct term, a goaltender. So let's ride with the Kings. I don't really have much more on that matchup. It's just that matchup is strictly just based on the Lightning and Maple Leafs matchup. You're gonna have to go with the team who's we can't say proven they can win the postseason. The Kings are a few years removed from winning the Stanley Cup, so obviously they're proving that they can win a playoff series.
All good stuff right there. That's Lawrence's NHL playoff predictions right there at the end of our rapid fire for today's episode. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify podcasts. Please follow and subscribe on all platforms. And please tell all of your friends, tell all your family members. This is the MTL podcast. We're just starting out. So, just give us a shot and hopefully you tune back in next week. Any last thoughts, Lawrence?
No, hopefully our boy Tevin gets in with us real quick. He's just currently on a short leave. We started to decide to start the podcast. He wasn't quite ready yet, but he'll be ready. Ready to bounce ideas. Had a little bit of another voice in the room. Great show, great time. Maybe we'll come up with some great lines for the playoffs. Follow our lines, see what happens. Can't hurt you.
Can't hurt at all. All right. Well, that's another episode of the MTL podcast. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next episode. See ya.
Sayonara.